Look at this madness. There's a giant smiley face in the backyard. How did we get here? Well, I'll explain. It's a bit technical though, which is why this is the 8th web video. So here's the story. The short video about the M2 MacBook Air, the one with augmented reality, was quite popular. It quickly became the 5th most viewed video on Photics TV. Since I had a lot of fun looking at the M2 MacBook Air in AR, I wondered, how could I add this feature to my website? That's what this video is about, creating web content with AR Quick Look on Apple devices, specifically the Safari web browser on a compatible iPhone or iPad. That's one of the biggest problems with this technology, compatibility. I went to the Can I Use website to see which browsers supported augmented reality, similar to what was shown on the M2 MacBook Air webpage, but I wasn't seeing any direct matches. I tried searching for augmented reality. That did return a result, but the WebXR device API is for accessing devices. That is interesting, but here I'm trying to quickly display 3D objects, natively without third-party libraries. So I searched for 3D file formats like OBJ or USDZ. That didn't return anything. Is this tech too new? Is this too difficult? No, not at all. Actually, it's quite easy. So, while searching for how to get this done, I found a blog post on webkit.org. It's entitled Viewing Augmented Reality Assets in Safari for iOS. I started reading through the document and suddenly reached the exact information that I was looking for. The in-place viewing of USDZ section sums it up nicely. To add that cool augmented reality effect that Apple uses on their M2 MacBook Air webpage, I only needed to add a hyperlink to a USDZ file with an REL attribute that has a value of AR. That's wild! Now, maybe you're not as excited as I am, as I realize that sounds highly technical. So, I'll break it down. A web page uses HTML tags to add pretty formatting to the text. The A tag is a way to create a hyperlink. In other words, text that is clickable and links to another web page. That hyperlink's relationship to the current page can be specified with the REL attribute. There are lots of different values that can be used here. That's why I was surprised to see AR. Immediately I thought, it can't be that easy. So I viewed the source code of the M2 MacBook Air website. If you want to view the HTML from a web page on an iPhone, the developer tools in macOS Safari makes that possible. Initially, I was just trying to find the specific element. Lots of boxes make up the page. Eventually, I found the hyperlink. Actually, there are 4 hyperlinks. Apple hides 3 of them based on which color you pick. Within the Midnight hyperlink, the REL attribute with a value of AR is clearly visible. There it is. It really is that easy. Except, what's a USDZ file? And how do I make one? Well, that 3D file format is based on Pixar's open source Universal Scene Description Format, USD. So, the first thing to do is to have a 3D model. What should I make? Figuring that I should have fun with this project, and since it is just an experiment, I decided to make the Photics TV icon in 3D. It's done in Voxel style. If you've played Crossy Road, you've seen this style before. It's essentially 3D pixels, creating artwork with cubes. Look out, hipster whale. As my first ever Voxel is looking alright. I'm using a program called Goxel. It's an open source voxel editor for Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. The downside of Goxel is that it doesn't export to USDZ. At least I didn't see a way to do that easily. So now what? Well, this part was a bit involved. Fortunately, Apple has a web page for augmented reality tools. There are some different options here, but I decided to go with Xcode. That's because certain 3D file formats can be directly opened in Xcode and then converted to USDZ. If you don't like to use the command line or apps like Terminal, then this is an easy way to convert the files. At least it should have been. I had a lot of trouble with the conversion. On the first attempt, the 3D model was just gray. It didn't have any of the colors. On another attempt, it somehow turned into a symbol similar to World War II. I'm not sure how that happened. On the final attempt, it was a bit convoluted. I exported from Goxel, then I opened that file in Blender, which is open source 3D software. From there, I exported that file to Collada, a digital asset exchange file with the DAE extension. I then opened that file with Xcode and then exported it to USDZ. It seems like this part should have been way easier, although it's been a while since I've worked with 3D files. So I imagine this part could be simplified. But basically, that's all there is to it. With a very simple HTML file, which was little more than a hyperlink with an AR relationship, the USDZ file could be displayed. It looks cute as an object, but it looked enormous in AR. There's a bit of work involved to prep the 3D model for proper viewing in AR. But as far as the web tech goes, it's pretty straightforward. Hopefully the other web browsers adopt this technology, as it's nice to see web tech that's easy to implement. And hopefully this video was helpful to you. Thanks for watching.